Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. This time we are going to be talking about Natsume Championship Wrestling on the SNES. Like a lot of these games, there's no story for this. But unlike a few of the better ones, the manual doesn't give you any indication of what's going on, who these people are, or really the organization that's, being wrestled in right now. That's kind of disappointing, even though you do have several game modes that'll let you craft your own story. There's really nothing besides that. I know I've mentioned this with a lot of the Super Nintendo games, but I would have liked for something to be added in here, even though there is just a little hint of role-playing going on where you can pretend to be a different wrestler and that sort of thing. One thing I will mention here is you can edit the tag teams. So you can pick from like a selection of preset tag teams, or you can create your own. So that's kind of cool, and that adds a little bit more variety to the game. There's a lot of really good things in Natsume Championship Wrestling, and this game kind of plays a little bit closer to more of the modern games that you would play, so something like SmackDown or one of the more recent WWE or AEW games, or even one of the more recent Fire Pro games. However, I wouldn't say that I really like the controls all that much for this game. I really should have looked them up before I started playing, because I was getting my butt kicked when I first started this. And for some reason I thought, well, this will just come to me. I can get through this. It'll be all right. No, I really couldn't. I had no idea what was going on, and the game felt way too difficult even on the easy setting. I did get lucky a few times and just accidentally did a move, but I was not doing anything right when I started. Then I looked up the manual and I realized what I was doing wrong. This is more of a timing system, so you need to get your button presses in before you actually go into a lockup. Even when doing this, it felt like I wasn't doing it right, so I was missing that split second that you needed in order to get the move in, and it always just felt like the computer was beating me on everything. I prefer Hammerlock Wrestling to this game, and also Saturday Night Slam Masters, because that just felt a little bit easier to pick up, even though I do like the gameplay in this game. The controls are kind of basic. Your X button is dash, your Y is punch, B is kick, and A is either a hold or an action button. So you can either initiate a grapple or you can do certain other actions with this. The A button is honestly used for just about everything in this. In a tag team match, your L button is going to be your tag button. This is also your pin button as well. Those are just the basic controls. Each of the 4 face buttons does do a move out of a lockup. And honestly, they're kind of overly complicated. I wish that it had been more simplified. So your Y, B, and A, those are going to be your weak, medium, and heavy attacks out of your grapple or your lockup. The X button lets you throw your opponents into the rope. And honestly, it's really complicated to do this stuff. It is all timing based, and I thought it was really more annoying than anything else. There's a lot more to this control scheme than just kind of your basic stuff, as each character does have their own kind of controls and everything that go into them. So it does give you some variety on what moves that you want to do and what moves you can pull off, because each character plays a little bit different. That's one of the plus things. You don't have like the same moves for every character, and that's kind of what lets this game be a bit better than many of the LJN or just the other licensed games on here. And in that respect, it is better from a gameplay standpoint than Hammerlock and Saturday Night Slam Masters. But the ease of doing moves in those games would make me elevate them above this one. There are 5 game modes in this, so you get a lot of variety. They are like a championship mode, a championship tag team mode, a round robin, tag team round robin, and then some exhibition matches. The exhibition matches are 2 players only, so yeah, that's kind of annoying. So you don't really get a chance to learn the control scheme through those. You have to go into the championship tournament or into like a tag team match in order to do that stuff. I should say the round robin, for those people that don't know, means you play up to like 5 characters, and you'll have to play through all of those matches in order to finish it. So you select your character you want to play, and then 5 other characters. You wrestle those 5 characters, then those characters all wrestle each other as well, just in case somebody doesn't know what a round robin is. The roster is actually pretty cool. You have 12 wrestlers in it. Since there is no license, they're all somewhat original. I would imagine that they're all inspired by different wrestlers, but I wasn't able to actually realize who each of them were. Like I mentioned with the story mode, you have a selection of preset tag teams, which you can edit, which is pretty awesome. So you find a couple of characters that you're pretty good at, and then you can just edit the tag teams so that those 2 wrestlers are on a team. It's pretty cool that way. I didn't notice any finishing moves when I was just playing it, but when I looked through the manual, I did see a few of them. I wasn't able to pull any of them off, but I'm pretty confident that they're in there, and you should be able to do them. Overall, I just did not enjoy this gameplay as much as, say, Hammerlock Wrestling or Saturday Night Slam Masters. It isn't terrible at all, but there is a learning curve that can be really frustrating for new players. I really like the graphics in this game. This is more detailed than what Hammerlock Wrestling was, and it also doesn't have, 2/3 of the screen taken up by cutscenes. It has a really great presentation as well. The character sprites look pretty good, and yeah, it's just much better looking than some of the other games that I've played. It's not going to look as good as the WWF arcade game because they're not using the same photorealistic sprites. And yeah, I think it looks better than the LJN games. It looks much better than the WCW game. And I think it looks better than what Hammerlock Wrestling did. It doesn't look as good as Saturday Night Slam Masters, though, mostly because that game was just a more faithful arcade port. And this one still looks good. You have the characters all somewhat looking different in several ways. They don't have the same character sprite for the most part. But there is something that doesn't quite feel as good with these graphics. Mostly the characters don't look as over the top as some of the other ones. So they all kind of look like your basic wrestler. There's nobody that's going to have just this elaborate entrance or kind of a crazy outfit. It looks good, but it doesn't look as good as, say, Saturday Night Slam Masters does. There also isn't that same variety in, what the wrestlers look like as there is with Hammerlock Wrestling. I still enjoy it quite a bit, but yeah, there's still a few weird things that go along with it. Overall, the graphics are really good, especially for a mid-90s release. I was expecting a little bit more in some places, but it still looks pretty good. The one problem I have with the visuals are the animations at times. They don't always make a whole lot of sense every once in a while. You'll do a move and it'll just maybe look a little bit choppy, or it won't really look as good as some of the other games. I don't think that this is the best wrestling game on the Super Nintendo. It has good graphics, but the controls and the difficulty are a bit of a problem for me. There is a lot to like in this game, and if I spent more than just a day or two playing this, I probably would have a different opinion, and the controls would probably be a lot easier. I still like both Hammerlock Wrestling and Saturday Night Slam Masters more than this one, even though I think Natsume Championship Wrestling is much better than all the other licensed games. It all comes down to the fact that I just didn't enjoy this one as much as either Hammerlock or Saturday Night Slam Masters. There's a lot of good stuff in this, but I think the controls are just kind of overly complicated for a Super Nintendo game, and it can be just a really tough game to learn on the fly. It's a really good-looking game, like many of the Super Nintendo games, but yeah, the control scheme was really what was holding me back. I would put this at probably the third best wrestling game on the Super Nintendo, though. That's going to wrap things up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and definitely let me know if you think I've got this one totally wrong. It's just not for me, I guess. Sorry about that. Anyway, let me know what you think. I will talk to you all later. Bye.